Hare Krishna, thank you all for joining in. And we'll start our discussion. But before that, so we're gonna discuss today chapter 10 and chapter 11. However, I'll start from discussion for chapter 11, and then I would go on chapter 10. So to begin with, we'll sing a song, a very beautiful song written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which highlights the mood of the principles which are given in the 11th chapter. So let me see if I can share my screen, and here it is. I hope all of you can see, and this is a song written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I'll read out the meaning first so all of us can relate to it. Now that I have surrendered all I possess, I fall prostrate before your house. You are the Supreme Lord. Kindly consider me your household dog. Anyone would like to read it rather than I read out? Translation.
Now that I have surrendered all I possess, I fell prostrate before your house. You are the Supreme Lord. Kindly consider your household dog. Okay.
Still joining in.
Bring me nearby, bring me as you will. I shall remain at the doorstep and allow enemies to enter your house. Will keep them at the bound of the moat surrounding your home. 3. Whatever remaineth you behind after all this will be my daily sustenance. I will feast on those remnants with great ecstasy. 4. While sitting up, while lying down, I will constantly meditate on your lotus feet. Whenever you call, I will immediately run to you in rapture. 5th, I will never think of my own maintenance, but rather remain constituted by a multitude of ecstasies. Bhakti will not accept you as his only support.
So chapter 11 opens up with the principle of Dasyam, servitorship, and this is the song that reflects the mood. Sarvasvathoma charane samipya podechi tomara ghare. Sarvasvathoma charane samipya podechi tomara ghare. Tumi tu ठाकुर तुम्हारा कुकु बोलिया जाना हो मोरे. तुमी तु ठाकुर तुम्हारा कुकुर बोलिया जानो हो मोरे. बांधिया निकटे आमारे पालिबे रोहिबे तुम्हार द्वारे. बांधिया निकटे आमारे पालिबे रोहिबो तुम्हार द्वारे. प्रतीप जाना रे असिता ना दीवो रखिबो गादर पारे. प्रतीप जाना रे आसीता ना दीवो रखिबो गादेर पारे. तब निज जाना प्रसाद सेव्या उच्च राखिबे जाहा. तब निज जाना प्रसाद सेविया उच्चिष्ट राखिबे जाहा. आमार भोजन परमा आनंदे प्रतिदिन हाइबे ताहा. आमार भोजन परमा आनंदे प्रतिदिन हाइबे ताहा. बसिया सुइया तुम्हारा चरण चिंतिबो सतत आमी. बसिया सुइया तुम्हारा चरण चिंतिबो सत आमी. नाचिते नाचिते निकटे जाइबो जखना दाखिबे तुमी नाचिते नाचिते निकटे जाइबो जखना दाखिबे तुमी निजेर पोषण काबू न भाविब रहिब भावेर भोरे निजेर पोषण खाबू न भाविब रहिब भावेर भोरे भक्ति विनोदा तोमार पालक बोलिया वारण कोरे भक्ति विनोदा तोमार पालक बोलिया वारण कोरे सर्वस्व तोमार चरण सामीप्य उदेशि तोमार घरे Hare Krishna. So Hare Krishna, welcome once again. Let's begin our discussion. For those of you who joined a little late, we had read the meaning of this already song. This is a song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur where he is expressing that how he wants to become a servant of the Supreme Personality Godhead. When he talks about his house, he doesn't say it's my house. He says, my dear Lord, it is your house. Kindly give me a shelter. And tumi kukura, and kindly tomara kukura boliya janho more, and kindly consider me as your household dog. I would be happy whatever remnants of your devotees are left behind if I get that an opportunity to honor. Like this, he makes a very humble prayer expressing the mood of Dasyata. So as I said, we'll begin with chapter 11 and then we'll go back to chapter 10. So with that, let's offer prayers and begin for today's program. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Go Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nana Shastra Vichaneka Nipano Sadharma Samsapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuane Manyo Sharanyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravindra Bhajana Nandena Matalikayo Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghujago Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghujago Shri Jiva Gopalako. Hare Krishna. Just before coming here for the class, I was having a program in the morning where I was speaking about Ramayana, and I was speaking about one particular pastime from Ramayana which is in relation to Mother Urmila. I will not go into the details of it, that's not our subject. But in that pastime, the story is in brief, where after 7 years of Vanvas, one night when Lakshman was circumambulating and circling the kutir of Sita Ram where they were taking rest, and he had not slept for 7 years straight, one divine personality appeared to him, saying that she is very pleased by all the austerities Lakshman have performed and she would like to bless him, ask for a blessing. And Lakshman said, no, I don't need it, I'm totally fine here. And eventually it turned out to be that divine personality was Nidra Devi. So that Nidra Devi had appeared to Lakshman and she wanted to bless, but Lakshman did not accepted the divine gift of sleep. We know how important the sleep is. Sometimes in this world there is no greater happiness than the blessing of a good sleep. But simultaneously there is a very important verse that comes in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, which says, one who attentively hears. Attentively hearing is only possible when you are awake. So when who is awake and attentively hears, then Krishna bestows his direct darshan. So the point I'm trying to make here is, those of you are a little tired and have a special blessing on Nidra Devi right now, can just go and put a cold water on your face, so you'll be a little freshened up. Is that okay? I do understand it is afternoon time and some of you might feel a little tired. Hare Krishna. So I hope my sound is penetrating through your little sleep and you're able to get that. So you become comfortable, fresh and relaxed. Alright, so let's do some Sloka recitation as a good practice. I'm just doing all the Sloka recitations so that you become more familiar with verses. And when I'm reciting, please make sure you also recite out loud. Kriti sadhya bhave sadhya bhava sa sadhana vida nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyataha. Slide is visible, right? Yeah. Smartavyo smartavyaha satatam vishnu vismartavyo na jatuchit sarve vidhi nisedhasyor etayoreva kinkaraha tasmad gurum prapadyeta jigyasu shreya uttamam shabde pare janishnatam brahmani upshamashrayam Shruti smriti puranadi pancharatha vidhim vina aikantaki harir bhaktir utpataiva kalpate. And with that Sloka recitation, let's come to the lesson 12. Today's syllabus is chapter 10 and chapter 11. But before that, let's do a quick recap of what all we discussed last time. Okay. So one of the things that we discussed last time, where we had spent good considerable time, was discussion on the offenses to the holy names of the Lord. Would anyone like to recollect anything if they remember from the discussion on the offenses, how to save oneself from the offenses, etc., etc.? Yes, Mother Maithini, your hand is up first. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhamma Pranam.
Dhanwats.
Prabhu, we have discussed in detail about the first, 9th and 11th offenses. First was to blaspheme a devotee of the Lord by interpreting the holy name. So you told us who is a Vaishnava and if we offend them, what we must do to repent, and if we are offended, what must be our attitude, and after offending, what we must not do.
And what we should not do? Yeah, that's a very...
The holy name of the Lord we cannot preach to the newcomers.
Hare Krishna. Why do I get muted by myself? This
Prabhu,
is...
there is an echo.
Sorry, Prabhu, I muted you because I was getting an echo, not able to hear Mataji clearly.
Okay, you tell me, I'll fix it.
Sorry, Prabhu.
No worries. And how do I fix it? Oh yeah, I know how to fix it. 1 second. Yeah. Now is okay? I hope there's no echo now.
Your voice is clear, Prabhuji, but when someone else is speaking, we are able to hear an echo sound.
Now you are... So while you were speaking, you were able to hear echo? So did not hear means it is fixed now. Okay. So Mother Maithini, you were making some very nice points and wonderful recollection. Just want to ask a question to you. You said we should not do when we commit aparadh towards others. What is that we should not do while we commit aparadh?
We must not justify our
Yes.
actions.
Correct. We should not justify. Go ahead. Anything else?
Then in the 9th offense, you told us that we must not give like the detailed description of the holy name. Just ask them to chant. That is the meaning of the 9th.
Correct.
offense. And 11th one, we must be attentive while chanting, and inattentiveness comes due to bodily attachment.
Yeah, inattentive chanting arises because of bodily identification, gross body and subtle body. Subtle body refers to emotions, etc., etc. So, thank you. Wonderful, wonderful recollection. I have a question for all of you now. Now, we didn't spend so much time on Seva Aparad. Rather, we spent so much time on Nam Aparad. Why did we discuss so much in detail about Nam Aparad but not Seva Aparad? Who would like to answer this? Okay, I saw the first hand of Mother Priya, if I'm correct. Go ahead, Mother.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Dandavat. Prabhu, is it because if we do Seva Aparad, we can take the shelter of the holy name and get ourselves free from that? Obviously, we should not be doing that. But when we do the aparad to the holy name, that's the highest aparad, and there is no escape if we do any aparad to the holy name.
Correct. Seva Aparad can be rectified by taking shelter of Harinam, holy names of the Lord. But the Aparad to Harinam, there is no recluse, there is no other option. Correct. That's the reason we had a discussion on this subject matter at length. Fine. So we had discussion of offenses to holy names. We also talked about discuss the appropriate ways of dealing with blasphemy. There were a couple of points. I'll not go back into the recap of whole thing. It'll take time. But if you blaspheme somebody, then what should be the behavior? How we should ask for forgiveness? Then if somebody else blasphemes you, then our approach should be Tranada Pisunichena. And third, if somebody tells you about someone else's faults or is blaspheming somebody else, or some other Vaishnavas are blasphemed, then what should be the course of action at our end? We can argue and project a different perspective, or else walk away from that place. And of course, the third point, to kill yourself is not an option present day, but some things like this we had discussed. We also discussed about how we can offer submission to Lord Shri Krishna. Rupa Goswami talks about 3 ways. Some prarthanatmikaha, which means feelingly with emotions offering prayers. Dainya vodhika means humility. Amara jivan sada pape rati. And lalasa mai, desiring some perfectional stage like that. Lalasa, eagerness to have Krishna's association. What is that? The Shastrakam. The 7th verse. Shunyaitam jagat sarvam govinda virahenam, that particular shloka that represents that. And then we also discussed about this Lalyam and Lalasamai in one's life. And also there was a discussion on the etiquettes in dealing with deities. When deity procession is going on, when deity arati is going on, and when you get flowers being offered to the Lord, you get it, how we should behave. If somebody has a deity at home, how it is essential to organize festivals, etc., etc. These all points were there. So let's start with today's discussion. We're going to start with the 11th chapter and then come back to the 10th chapter. We'll go in that way. So with the 11th chapter, the first item in the 11th chapter is Dasyam, servitorship. So as we see in the slide, we'll take a look in the slide and then we'll read out. And I'll give you a little bit of summary about it. Some say offering results is servitorship, whereas according to Vaishnava Acharyas, engagement in service is called as servitorship. What it means? Dasyata has 2 aspects, which is being described by Srila Rupa Goswami. In the book, you will not find the Sanskrit terminology, but if somebody is interested on a more deeper understanding, they can write down. There are 2 kinds of servitorship. One is karma arpanam. What you saw in the slide here, offering results is called servitorship. Karma arpanam, that is called as karma arpanam. You acquire some fruits of your work and dedicate in the service of the Lord. That is called as karma arpanam. But that is not called as pure devotion. That is devotion, but not pure devotion. That's the second point. And what is the other kind of dasyata? Other kind of dasyata is kin karyam, which means to offer direct devotional service following the 9 limbs of bhakti as are being described. So what is karma arpanam? 2 things are there in karma arpanam. First, to offer the results of one's prescribed duties as Varnashrama Dharma, following that. Second, offering direct service within the 9 main process of devotional service. That is also called as Karma Arpanam, like that. This thing. So if you look at the first paragraph or the second paragraph, let's read the first and the second paragraph. Prabhupada makes this point. Prabhupada does not give the Sanskrit equivalent, but he makes a point about both Karma Arpanam and Kankaryam. Somebody would like to read the first and the second paragraph from the book? Mother Leela Nandini, please go ahead. Start reading, please. You're not audible.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Yes, go ahead, Danvats.
Yeah, aspects of transcendental service servitorship. In the opinion of the Karmis, fruity workers, offering the results of karma is called servitorship. But according to Vaishnava Acharyas like Rupa Goswami, servitorship means constant engagement in some kind of service to the Lord. In the Skanda Purana, it is said.
So the first line, offering the results, is Karma Arpanam. And the second line, which means a constant engagement in some kind of service to the Lord, is called as Kinkaryam. That is the point. Now please read out more about Karma Arpanam, which is described in the second paragraph. Please read out.
Yes, in the Skanda Purana, it is said that those who are attached to ritualistic activities, the 4 orders of social life and the 4 orders of spiritual life are considered devotees. But when devotees are actually engaged in offering service to the Lord directly, this must be Bhagavatas or pure devotees. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities or prescribed duties according to the 4 orders of social and spiritual life are not actually pure devotees. But still, because they are offering the result to the Lord, they are accepted as devotees.
This is the type 1 Karma Arpanam. They are engaged in some fruitive activities, they get the result of it, and they dedicate in the service of the Lord. So that becomes Karma Arpanam, which our Acharyas do not count it in a pure devotional service, but it's definitely a devotional service. That's the point here. Go ahead, Mother.
When one has no such desire but acts spontaneously out of love of God, such a person must be accepted as a pure devotee. The conditioned souls who have come in contact with the material world are all more or less desirous of loading it over material nature. The system of Varnashrama and the prescribed duties under this system are so designed that the conditioned soul may enjoy in the material world according to his desire for sense gratification and at the same time gradually become elevated to spiritual understanding. Under this prescribed duties of Varna and Ashrama, there are many activities which belong to devotional service in Krishna consciousness.
So how many of you have heard the word dovetailing in Srila Prabhupada's writings? Dovetail one's propensity. How do I see the audience here? I don't know. Have you heard the word dovetailing? You have a singing skills, sing for Krishna. You have a music skill, you have a cooking skill, used for Krishna. That is the point about, and that is called as Karma Arpanam. You have something and you offer to the Lord. That does not indicate a spontaneous devotional service or devotional service which is rendered all the time. That is the point Prabhupada is making. Please go ahead, Mother, read it further and complete the paragraph.
Those devotees who are householders accept the Vedic ritualistic performances as well as prescribed duties of devotional service because both are meant for satisfying Krishna. When householder devotees perform some Vedic ritualistic duties, they do so to satisfy Krishna. As we have previously discussed, any activity aiming at satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead is considered devotional service.
Hare Krishna. So, and in the third paragraph also Prabhupada continues to speak on this Karma Arpanam and gives a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada gives a quotation for that. So that's about servitorship in brief. There are 2 types, Karma Arpanam and Kankaryam. Like that is being described here. Now the next subject matter or the principle here in this chapter is devotional service in friendship. So Sakhyam, which has been called as, there are 2 things under the Sakhyam. There is one thing called as Vishwasa, and second is called as Maitri. I'm intentionally using this Sanskrit terminology because then it becomes easy to make a distinction between what is going on. Otherwise, if you just go through with the English, you will not be able to kind of connect with it. So what is Vishwas? Vishwas also have two stages of Shraddha. Vishwas means having a faith. Krishna is my protector. That is the first meaning of Vishwas. An example is of Draupadi Prabhupada gives. Draupadi had that Vishwas, that Krishna will protect her. And second meaning of Vishwas is becoming a well-wisher of Krishna. Second meaning of Vishwas is becoming well-wisher of Krishna. And this subject matter is discussed in the 18th chapter where Krishna says, the one who preaches about me is the most dear to me. So in that way, that's the second meaning of Vishwas. So that's the level 1 of friendship. The second level of friendship is Maitri, where the relationship with the Lord is in the sense of a peer. Krishna is seen as a peer, like Gopas. But this level of friendship appears in a very advanced stages of bhakti, like that. So let's take a look what Prabhupada writes. Somebody please read out the first paragraph. Prabhupada speaks about this Vishwas and Maitri in the first paragraph. Who would like to read? Mother Varsha, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanvatnam.
Downwards.
Devotional service in friendship can be divided into two categories. The first is to act as the confidential servant of the Lord, and the other is to act as the well-wisher of the Lord. The devotee who has confidence in devotional service to the Lord systematically follows the rules and the regulations, with the faith that he will achieve the platform of transcendental life. The second type of devotional service is to become a well-wisher of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord accepts a preacher as the most dear servant. Anyone who is preaching the confidential message of the Gita to the people in general is so dear to Krishna that no one can be equal to him in human society.
So in Prabhupada, in the paragraph, in the first line, if you see, the first is to act as a confidential servant of the Lord, and other to become a well-wisher of the Lord. So Vishwasa is a well-wisher. Act as a confidential servant to the Lord is Maitri. And then Prabhupada gives the two further division of Vishwas, where has a full faith on Krishna. The Prabhupada gives example about it in the second paragraph from Mahabharata about Draupadi had a full faith. And then in this paragraph which we read, Prabhupada gives an example where by the practice of sadhana bhakti he matures in his Vishwas to Krishna, where he becomes a well-wisher of Krishna. So first thing is Krishna is my well-wisher. And the second stage of Vishwas, or this devotional service and friendship, where I am the well-wisher of Krishna. Of course, the devotee doesn't think like that, but that's how the mood develops, where he is preaching about Krishna. So that's the point which is mentioned there, like this. And then Prabhupada in the last paragraph, if you go to the last paragraph of this topic, talks about Maitri, in a mood of a friendship with Krishna. And Prabhupada says, somebody would like to read the last paragraph? A devotee rolling in the temple or sleeping in the temple hall, Prabhupada talks about, this is in the realm of Maitri. Prabhupada writes, it is found that a pure devotee lies down in the temple of the Lord in order to serve him as a confidential friend. Such friendly behavior of a devotee may be accepted as raganuga, spontaneous. Although according to regulatory principle, no one can lie down in the temple of the Lord. This spontaneous love of Godhead may be grouped under devotional service in friendship, like that is being described. So this is about Maitri, or friendship, or Sakhya, where two things, Vishwas and Maitri. Let's go to the next topic, which is titled as Surrendering Everything to the Lord. Now this topic has two aspects to it. Surrendering everything to the Lord, which is Atma Nivedan. And there is something which is equivalent to Atma Nivedan, is called as Sharanapatti. I don't think so. I have it all this on the slide deck. Let me just see if I made notes about it. Yeah, it's not there. Fine. So I hope all of you can make notes about it, because this is not I put in the slide. So surrender has two aspects. One is called Atma Nivedan and second is called Sharanapatti. Now what does it Atma Nivedan and Sharanapatti means, and what are the difference? Atma Nivedan, classic example for Atma Nivedan is Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, you read about the 8th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, where he surrendered everything to Vamanadev, right? While he surrendered everything to the Lord, but he did not have any dependence on the Lord, correct? He surrendered everything, but he was not dependent on the Lord. That is Atma Nivedan. Second kind of surrender is Sharanapati, where there is a full dependence on the Lord. And the example is of gopis. Now, if you see, the gopis didn't have anything to offer to Krishna, but gopis were completely sold out to Krishna. They were totally dependent on Krishna. So that's the difference between Atma Nivedan and Sharanapati, both of which Srila Rupa Goswami discusses here. So somebody please read out the first 2 paragraphs of Atma Nivedan. Or let's read out the first paragraph at least. I'll give you the summary of rest of the point. Please read out the first this thing. Hare Krishna.
Surrendering everything to the Lord. Regarding complete self-surrender, there is a nice description in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 29th chapter, verse 34, where the Lord says, a person who has completely surrendered unto me and has completely given up all other activities is protected by me personally, both in this life and in the next. In other words, I wish to help him become more and more advanced in spiritual life. Such a person is to be understood as having already achieved Shastri, having equal opulences with the Supreme. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that as soon as a person surrenders onto the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna takes charge of him and gives him a guarantee of protection from all the sinful reactions. He also instructs from within so that the devotee may very quickly make advancement towards spiritual perfection.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is the verse which translation was just read by Mother from Prabhupada's writing here. Mrityu yada tyakta samasta karma nivedatma vichakshito me tadamritatvam pratipadyamano mayatma bhuyaya cha kalpate vai. So Atma Nivedan, this is an example given from 11th canto, which given up all fruitive activities. A person who entirely offers himself unto Krishna and is eagerly desiring service attains the same status, Shastri, the kind of liberation one gets, like that is being described here. And then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada talks about what does Atma. Nivedana means to surrender, but what does Atma means? Somebody is not muted. Okay. So what does Atma means? So according to Sanskrit dictionary, Atma can also mean the body, gross body. Atma could also mean subtle body. You can call it mind. And Atma could also mean the soul. So Prabhupada talks about that how if Atma means body, then to surrender the body, to use everything in the service of the Lord. To mind, to use the thinking, feeling and willing function of the mind in the service of the Lord. And when it means soul, which means to surrender oneself entirely in the service of the Lord. So here, if you take a look in the next paragraph, Prabhupada quotes from the Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song, where he says, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur have written, my mind, my household affairs, my body, whatever is my possession, my dear Lord, I offer everything in your service. I guess this is that song, Manasa Deho Geho Joki Chumora. That's what Prabhupada is quoting here. And then in the next few paragraphs, there are quotations from Yamunacharya. There's a quotation from Hari Bhakti Viveka and also from Srila Rupa Goswami. So let's take a look what Yamunacharya says. So Yamunacharya says, whatever state I offer, I'm a human, demigod, animal. I want to offer everything in the service of yours. And then there is Hari Bhakti Viveka says, as sold out animal does not think about maintenance, similarly devotees does not think about their sustenance. And then finally to conclude with, Srila Rupa Goswami says, friendship and surrender are two different processes. And further Srila Rupa Goswami writes in the last paragraph in this discussion, therefore Such relationship with the Lord can very rarely be seen. Only for the advanced devotees are these two processes easily executed. The purport is that it is very rare to see surrender which is mixed with sincere ecstatic devotion, where one must have given himself completely to the will of the Lord. So when you read the section of Bali Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam, does anyone know when Bali Maharaj has surrendered? Vamandev had asked for 3 steps, and Vamandev turned into Trivikrama. And in the first step, he took the whole upper, the middle and the upper. In the second step, he took all the lower planetary system. There was no place left to keep the third step. And then Vamanadev as Trivikrama chastised Bali Maharaj. He said, "You rascal, you consider yourself to be a man of words. You promised me to give me 3 steps. Now tell me, where should I keep my third step?" A very interesting character of Bali Maharaj is a very, very inspiring story. When Vamana had asked, "Give me 3 steps worth land," then the Shukracharya, the spiritual master of Bali Maharaj, told, "Hey Bali Maharaj, do not trust this boy. This is Vishnu, who on the name of 3 steps will take everything that you have acquired with so much great struggle." And that point of time, as all of you be aware, Bali Maharaj said, "Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. I don't give a damn about you. I am going to do what Vamanadev is saying. So if he is Vishnu, then I should surrender myself to Vishnu." So you know what Shukracharya said? "I curse you to lose everything." So while Bali Maharaj was attempting to surrender to Vamanadev, he got cursed and chastised by Shukracharya. When Bali Maharaj surrendered, then he was called out rascal by Trivikrama. That you did not fulfill your promise. And then Bali Maharaj said, "All right, so be it. Only my head is remaining. I give you my head." And then Bali Maharaj gave his head, and then the Lord kept his 3rd feet on the head of Bali Maharaj. Does anyone know what happened next? What happened next? So the 3 steps have been taken. The story must end here. But how did Lord conclude this thing? Yes, Nitai Pran Prabhu. Unmute. Yes, mother.
It's not exactly correct, but what I remember is then as a reward, Vamandev gave Bali Maharaj a complete planet, and Bali Maharaj resides there and rule over it, and Lord himself is guarding the palace of Bali Maharaj, just to from which gate he comes. Lord is just revolving and just to show his love for his devotees, guarding the palace.
Okay, so quite close to it. Quite close to it. He's a king of the Patal Lok, and Bali Maharaj is always residing there. So in Padma Puran there is a reference comes that how once there was a problem in Dwarka, and Narad Muni had come to seek help of Vamana or Trivikrama, who is guarding Bali Maharaj. And when Narad Muni came and asking for help, Lord Vamana said, "No, I am committed to protect Bali. At no cost I can leave his door to go and perform or protect somebody else at Dwarka." Why am I quoting this example is, we are talking about surrender, to give everything for Krishna. But the question is, what do you get after giving Krishna? That was the point I wanted to make here, to complete the whole picture. When we give ourselves to Krishna, ye yatha mam prapadyante tham sathaiva bhajami ham. Krishna reciprocates equivalently, or I would say unlimited time more. Vamanadev would have never thought that, Bali Maharaj would have never thought that Vamana will become my gatekeeper to protect me from anyone and anything. So that's how the Lord reciprocated. So anyways, that's an example given how devotee, when he matures in his devotion, but naturally wants to give everything in the service of the Lord. And if you want to think more on it, there could not be no better example in the recent history than Srila Prabhupada, who surrendered everything in the service of the Lord. Let's go to the next item, which is called as offering a favorite article. Now, when it comes to offering a favorite article, there are 2 things which we need to consider. Although Prabhupada mentions very briefly here. First is to offer Lord what is favorite to us, to offer our favorite thing to the Lord. And second thing, offering a favorite article means to offer the Lord His favorite article. Alright? To offer what is favorite to us and to also offer what is favorite to the Lord is called as offering a favorite article. So Prabhupada quotes from 11th canto, verse number 41. He writes here, and what it says: Yat yat ishtatamam loke yachati priyamatmanaha tan tan nivedayan mayam tad anantaya kalpate. So we offer, how do we offer Lord? We offer what we like the most, and we also offer what Krishna likes. And coming to the next item in this, which is performing all endeavors for Krishna. Tadarthe akhila cheshtitam. Somebody would like to read the paragraph? Performing all endeavors for Krishna. Please read out. Santosh Prabhu.
In the Narad Pancharatra, there is a small statement of how one can act in all spheres of life for the satisfaction of the Lord. It is stated there that a person who is actually in devotional service must be engaged in all kinds of activities, those prescribed in the revealed scriptures and also those that are accepted for livelihood. In other words, not only should a devotee engage himself in the prescribed duties of devotional service that are mentioned in the revealed scripture, but he should also perform the duties of his practical life in Krishna consciousness. For example, a devotee who has a great establishment or a factory may offer the fruits of such a material possession for the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
So Prabhupada is offering a practical consideration in this regard. He's saying performing all endeavors for Krishna. If somebody is a businessman, then he can use some of his fruit of his work in the service of the Lord, or a serviceman and whatnot. So that it becomes like all the endeavors being performed is performed for the pleasure of the Krishna. And now the next item is Sharanapati. You see the next item? So I've already made a difference between Atma Nivedan and Sharanapati. Sharanapati means being a surrendered soul. An example was given of Gopi. Please somebody read out what is being a surrendered soul means. Next point. Anyone would like to read from the book?
Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Being
Mother.
a surrendered soul. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, there is the following statement about self-surrender. My dear Lord, a person who has surrendered himself unto you, who is in firm conviction that he is yours, and who actually acts in that way by his body, mind and words, can actually relish transcendental bliss. In the Narsingha Purana, Lord Narsinghadev says, anyone who prays unto me and takes shelter for me becomes my ward, and I protect him always from all sort of calamities.
Correct. So this is being a surrender soul. So Sharanam, or this is Sharanapati, as you can see on the slide, which means being fully dependent on the Lord. And Atmanivedan, offering everything to the Lord. That's the difference. And then comes the last item in this chapter. So serving Tulsi. Well, if you pay attention to this, in the first 10 items which we discussed, the 10th item was serving banyan tree, banyan tree, and few other items were there. So some of these items, when you study carefully the 64 items, you'll find some of those items are repetitive. They are not repetitive, but they are very close to it. Like that. Only thing which is repetitive are from 60 to 64, the last 5 points, which talks about taking shelter of the holy names, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, reciting in Dham, Seva, etc. like that. Those are the only points. And something, if it is repeated, it means it is overemphasized. It must be paid attention. So serving trees such as Tulsi, we all know the glories of Tulsi Maharani. Prabhupada quotes from Skanda Purana. Somebody renders service to Tulsi Maharani, it vanquishes all sins, will not be sent to the court of Yamraj. Drashta sprashta dhyayata kirita namita stutita rupita sevita pujita. Whatever ways somebody gets to touch, somebody gets to worship.
The screen is not shared, Prabhu.
Oh, what has been shared then? Oh, it's
Yeah,
shared
now,
now?
now it's
Okay.
yeah, it's better.
Yeah, drashta sprashta. So whatever way one comes in contact with Tulsi and gets to serve Tulsi, he gets an opportunity to render service to the Supreme Personality Godhead and gets to go back to home, back to Godhead, like that. So somebody please read out the last paragraph in the Skanda Purana. I just give you the Sanskrit of it. Please read out the last paragraph.
In the Skanda Puran, there is another statement about Tulsi as follows, right? That's fair, agree?
Yes, that's the last paragraph, huh?
Yeah. Tulsi is auspicious in all respects. Simply by seeing, simply by touching, simply by remembering, simply by praying to, simply by bowing before, simply by hearing about, or simply by sowing this tree, there is always auspiciousness. Anyone who comes in touch with the Tulsi tree in the above mentioned ways lives eternally in the Vaikuntha world.
It is very, very essential, and Srila Prabhupada also at times when he was present, he had made several attempts that Tulsi Maharani can grow in the West. Those who are in UK, probably they would be practicing this. Those who live in a cold country, so particularly where winter is very cold, for example, I'll give an example of Chicago Temple. They had built a dedicated room for Tulsi Maharani, and in that room they had put a heater, and there were some big lamps which for sunlight purpose also, and also for heat. And then when you entered in that room, it was a big room. It was like a Tulsi Vatika. Nice, huge Tulsi Maharani was growing. And it's a noted fact, if Tulsi Maharani is being taken care, I really don't want to go into the details of it, but if Tulsi Maharani is taken care, there are many examples of it. Maybe I'll just give one or two examples. Tulsi Maharani is taken care, then everything flourishes, the devotion flourishes. If Tulsi Maharani is neglected, then our bhakti also gets affected. I'll give you one example of a man, is from UK only. He was traveling, he loved to travel on a cruise line, and he also had a passion for plants and trees. So when he boarded his room or checked in his room in a cruise line, in that room there was a plant was left over, which probably from somebody who had checked in before might have forgotten. So when he saw that and he called the waiter and all that stuff, they said, sir, it doesn't belong to us. Probably the previous person left it behind, etc. So he thought, okay, anyways, I love plants, why don't I take it? He brought it back along with him. This is something back that happened in London. I don't know exactly how long is the story. One of the devotees was sharing this. So a couple of months down the line, he was serving that Tulsi plant. He was serving that plant actually, which happens to be a Tulsi plant, which he didn't know. He was caring for that plant just like any normal plant he would care for. And after a few months, he saw Harina happening on the streets of London. Although he had seen it before, but he never had a sense of attraction or a calling to go and meet with the devotees. He met with them, he got a copy of Bhagavad Gita, gradually started coming to temple, and few months down the line when he became regular to temple, and during this time when 6 months have closed, around close to 6 months have passed by, he has stopped eating meat, he has stopped drinking alcohol, etc. By himself he has become vegetarian and sattvic person. One day one of the devotees visited his house. And the devotee visited his house, he was surprised to see that he was serving Tulsi. So the plant which he had got in a cruise line was now in the house of this man, which he had no idea so far that's a Tulsi. And the devotee asked, oh, from where did you got Tulsi Maharani? And the man said, I have no idea. And then the whole story came into circle, that how this person got interested in devotional life, etc. is all began because he started serving Tulsi Maharani. So the serving of Tulsi Maharani is considered very auspicious as one of the core principles of our bhakti life, and Srila Prabhupada instituted the worship of Tulsi Maharani every morning. Every devotee, and in fact for every householder, even if they're not able to do deity worship, at least they should do Tulsi worship every day. And that's a very essential part of our culture. So with that, we have finished 11th chapter, where a few items were discussed. Just to do a quick recap of it, we'll go back into the 10th chapter now. We're going to discuss about hearing. So we discussed about servitorship, dasyata. We discussed about sakya, how do we serve Lord in the mood of maitri. We also talked about atma nivedana, sharanapati, also how to offer our favorite item, and serving Tulsi Maharani. So let's come to chapter number 10 now, where there is a discussion on subject matter of hearing and remembering. Now, when it comes to hearing, Shravanam is there are many references. In fact, our whole process begins with Shravanam. It actually is all about Shravanam. You take a case anywhere. Arjuna's confusion was eradicated not by Pathanam or Mananam. Arjuna's perplexity was resolved by Shravanam, by hearing from Krishna. Similarly, Parikshit Maharaj sat down to hear from Sukadeva Goswami, not to read or do Mananam. Yes, he sat down in his final 7 days to hear from Sukadeva Goswami. Shravanam is a very core subject matter of our bhakti life. Therefore, in Srimad Bhagavatam, very beautiful verse comes. This is in the Kunti Maharani prayer, and Mother Kunti is saying, Shanvanti Gayanti Garnanti Avikshnasha. Shanvanti Gayanti Grananti, Abikshnasha, which means always. Smarananti Nandanti, rejoices. Tave Hitam Janaha, in your activities. Janaha matlab population or populace. Taeva Pashyanti Achirena Tavakam. Very soon he gets the vision, Pashyanti. Very soon he gets to see. What he gets to see? The one who does Shavan. Bhava Pravaho Paramam Padam Bhujam. Very quickly he get the shelter of your lotus feet. And what shelter? He get to see, he get the vision of your lotus feet. Similarly, there is a very beautiful verse that comes in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Kapil Muni is saying that the glories of hearing is such, and the reciprocation of the Lord is such, to whatever form the devotee gets attracted to, Lord takes that form for that devotee and appears to him. And it all begins with Shravanam, and that is a point which is being discussed in the 10th chapter. Oh, I'm on the 12th. In the 10th chapter of this Nectar Devotion book. So this Shravanam, which is being discussed here, can happen in 3 categories. We can do Nama Shravanam, which means chanting the holy names of the Lord, Guna Shravanam, and Charitra Shravanam. And Prabhupada talks about all of this in purport. We'll take a look at it, each of it one by one. So before we get into this, does anyone know what is the process of Swadhyaya? How should we read or hear Prabhupada books? There are 5 steps or stages in the process of Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means study. And our Vedic study begins with Shravanam. I don't have it on the PowerPoint, so I'll just speak it out. If it makes sense to you, it'll be nice. So first is Shravanam. The process of acquiring knowledge begins with hearing. After Shravanam comes Mananam. Manana means recollection. You have heard something, and later in the day we try to recollect what did we heard. Shravanam, Mananam, then Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam refers to contemplation. We're going to talk about one subject matter today in which we're going to apply this Swadhyaya process, and that subject matter is dealing with crisis, which is one of the aspects of today's discussion. So you hear, then you try to recollect what you heard, and then you try to contemplate. Contemplate on what? How do I apply in my life? That is called Nididhyasanam. The 4th step of Swadhyaya is Pathanam. Pathanam means recitation. Whatever you have heard, to recite. And then finally, Kirtanam. Kirtanam means is to speak. So Srila Prabhupada, in one of the purports in 3rd canto again, he writes, if he does not share whatever realizations he has got, if he does not share with others, all those realizations will leak out. So in our parampara, this process of learning and sharing plays a very important role. So that's about a little bit on how does this whole process of acquiring knowledge, or which begins with hearing, happens. So let's take a look. Let somebody read out the first paragraph, then I'll give you a summary of what's happening next. Prabhupada describes the importance of hearing. Madhurati Manjari, please read out.
Hearing, the beginning of Krishna consciousness and devotional service, is hearing, in Sanskrit called Shravanam. All people should be given the chance to come and join devotional parties so that they may hear. This hearing is very important for progressing in Krishna consciousness. When one links his ears to give oral reception to the transcendental vibrations, he can quickly become purified and cleansed in the heart. Lord Chaitanya has affirmed that this hearing is very important. It cleanses the heart of the contaminated soul so that he becomes quickly qualified to enter into the devotional service and understand Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna. A question for all of you. It cleanses the heart of the contaminated soul. He becomes qualified to enter devotional service. So how does the process of hearing works? That it purifies our heart from the contamination. Any thoughts on it? If you have anything read or heard about it? How just by hearing? We have an example of Parikshit Maharaj sitting and hearing from Sukadeva Goswami. Then Shaunaka Rishi selects Suta Goswami, and then Suta Goswami answers. How does this process work? Nitai Pran Prabhu. Mother, we can close the screen. Screen is not needed.
Haribol Dharat Prabhu. So Prabhu, when we are hearing from someone, so we surrender and we humbly hear. But that there itself our ego subsides and we are listening to someone else rather than trying to read and understand on our own strength or power.
Dhritarashtra was a fantastic listener, Mother. he would listen to anyone and everyone. He would always ask, what do you think? What do you think? He was very good at asking. He was listening, but nothing happened to him.
Because he was hearing Prabhu but not practicing.
He was hearing but not practicing. Okay, correct. Which makes sense. There is something in between hearing and practicing also. Okay, we'll come back to you. Anshul Prabhu, let's hear from you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Dhanata. So, probably hearing has to be done with faith, which that's
correct.
Important. And then the impact that it produces is that it changes our attachment from the material propensities to the pastimes of the Lord, His name, form, qualities, etc., which automatically then purifies our state of consciousness.
So, Shaunaka, which is correct, Anshul, whatever you're saying, totally agreed on that. So why did Shaunaka Rishi selected Suta Goswami, who apparently was younger to many of the rishis there, to be the leader, to be the speaker? What was so unique with Suta Goswami that he was selected? Okay, think about Sukadeva. Okay, Sukadeva Goswami is a special case, so let's not go there. But think about Suta Goswami. He was not the eldest member, yet he was selected by all the sages there to speak about Srimad Bhagavatam and many other subjects. I am discussing on a very broad definition of hearing. Why am I discussing that? Because today, in the day of internet, there are many people speaking many things. So it's very important for us to have certain parameters, certain criteria to understand, how does hearing happens and how does hearing affects us. So let's hear from somebody else have any reasoning for it. Somebody wants to answer my question. Is that why Nitai Pranpu you have raised your hand? Okay, go ahead, Nitai Pranpu.
The hearing should be done from some authority or someone who has actually listened from someone else in parampara, and it should not be.
So brilliant point. Point is, first of all, we should know the speaker himself. That's a very important point, We should know what's the connection of speaker with the parampara. Otherwise, if we just hear from a person who is very famous, then it is called as follower of an iconoclast. Iconoclast means who has his own following, but we don't know anything independent of him. You're getting a point? The word iconoclast, one who has his own. For example, let's talk about art of living. Art of living is all about Shri Ravi Shankar. उसके माई बाप और वंशज के बारे में कुछ नहीं पता, right? Nobody gives a damn about it. Similarly, we have Sadhguruji. Nobody knows what's his background and all that. At large, with so many great following they have, they're doing their good work, no doubt about it. But I don't think so anyone is bothered about it. It's all about them. That is means what? Iconoclast. So one thing that we have to be careful is all about is also to know what's their connection. You know, who they are, who have they trained them, under whom they are trained. So in case of Suta Goswami was selected because he was one of the member of the Sabha where Sukdev Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. That was, in other words, Sukdev Goswami was a spiritual master. That was his qualification. Why he was selected by the sages of Naimisharanya. His father, Romaharshan and Suta both were present there. Father had performed some other leela, so he was put aside for a while. So son was taken into picture. Okay. What else? Sudhir Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So when it comes to hearing, Prabhu already answered what I was thinking.
Fine.
So additionally, what I would like to say is, it is equally important what not to hear. Because even in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in one sloka, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, if you somehow or other way listen to or read the commentaries of the Mayavadi philosophies, it's very dangerous. You will lose all the consciousness and you will fall to the darkest of ignorance.
Fine, noted.
So,
not to hear, correct? Go ahead.
So when it comes to intelligence, we should hear what we are ought to hear.
So Sudhir Prabhu is making a point. Hearing also means to understand what to be heard, what not to be heard. Having a clear distinction between that. Great. An Nectar instruction will make this point, we'll discuss that. And one of the purpose of right, if somebody has a neophyte as a guru, neophyte could also be a guru. And if somebody has a neophyte as a guru, then that guru can bring him only up to that level. Cannot take him beyond that. So what it means actually, which means the relationship between guru and shishya is primarily through Vani. Yes? So it is a Vani. So even if that person is speaking Srimad Bhagavatam is for all, for the highest of the transcendentalists. Yet the disciple would not become the highest of the transcendentalists when the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is coming from neophyte guru. So what it means? So in that regard, it is said, it is the realizations of the speaker that brings about a transformation in the heart of the audience. It is the realization of the speaker that brings about the advancement, that brings about the transformation in the listener. Now, I want to make a disclaimer. Don't want to make any critical point here. A disclaimer is, it does not mean now henceforward I would not hear to anyone apart from my Guru Maharaj. Everyone else is a neophyte. Though that should not be the attitude and approach. Srila Prabhupada instituted every morning Bhagavatam class. And where many times you might have a scenario where you might have junior devotees than you giving a class. Even they have something to teach us, because every one of us have some realizations. But that does not become our prime hearing. You getting it? That is not our main hearing. Our main hearing should be from our main Shiksha or Diksha Guru, who we have accepted. And that is our guiding light. But apart from that, this is our institutionalized hearing, which is very essential, because we get to grow. When we get to hear from different devotees and everyone speaks what's very important to them in their heart. So that's how the whole hearing has been kind of practiced in our ISKCON as a culture. Sandeep, we'll take a last comment from you. You got muted, Prabhu.
Harish Prabhu, am I audible?
Yes, very much.
So just wanted to add what we hear in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, also in the Krishna Leela of Brahman's wives, how they heard about Krishna from all that aborigine women or vendors, fruit vendors, and they got the taste of, they got devotion for Krishna, although they have not met him or never came across any Leela, but just hearing about from them have created so much love for Krishna in their heart.
Correct. Hearing, correct. So like that, there are many examples. Another point, Prabhupada in first canto, third chapter, verse number 44, you can mark this thing. for yourself. Very, very great, beautiful purport. You can mark it as a golden purport. 1.3.44. Prabhupada writes 5 points how to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, every one of us wants to study Srimad Bhagavatam. So how do we understand Srimad Bhagavatam? Prabhupada writes 5 points. First, one should not hear from professional reciters. Just like Sudhir Prabhu was saying, hearing not only means what to hear, but also not to hear. So that's a point Prabhupada mentioned. Not to hear from professional reciters. Professional reciters are those who uses the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam for their earning, for livelihood. First. Second thing, not to hear from people who do not follow 4 regulatory principles. Third, not to hear from people who give their speculation. 4, as a student, we should be very sincere and attentive while listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. And 5th, we should hear from person who comes in bona fide parampara. And Prabhupada says, if these 5 conditions are met, in essence, important point is a good teacher and student combination is found, then the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam becomes very, very relishable. Like that, Srila Prabhupada speaks about it. So going back to this discussion on hearing, in the next paragraph, Prabhupada quotes from Garuda Puran, Prabhupada quotes of Srila Rupa Goswami quote, and makes a very interesting analogy. It is said, when a man is bitten by a snake, he does not die immediately. He becomes unconscious and remains in a comatose situation. Similarly, a living entity is also in a comatose situation, being bitten by the material energy of the Lord, because he is ignorant of his actual position. So the materialistic life is compared to a situation of a person bitten by a snake. And then Prabhupada says, just like one who is bitten by a snake can be revived from his suffering condition or brought back to life by the chanting of some mantras. So traditionally there used to be some mantras you recite and the poison will go away. Prabhupada is quoting that from Garuda Purana. Similarly, one can be brought back to Krishna consciousness from the deadly unconscious state of material life. This is the second paragraph of this hearing section. You want to take a look in your book. Of deadly unconscious state of material life by hearing of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Like that, Prabhupada talks about how the Shravan of Krishna Nam can revive one's Krishna consciousness. Then in next paragraph, Prabhupada goes from 4th canto, 29th verse, verse number 40, that how if someone is eager to hear Krishna Katha about Krishna, about Krishna's qualities, then he becomes freed from all kind of inauspiciousness. And third is Charit Shravana, which we just gave an example like that. So Charit Shravana, in the next paragraph, Prabhupada talks about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommending the process of hearing, where he said hearing from the great acharyas and devotees of the Lord can bring about transformation. And then in the next paragraph, an example of Arjuna is given, how Arjuna, who was perplexed, but once he gave oral reception to such vibration, which means Krishna's words, then he became freed from all the illusions. And then there is a final reference from the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it said, somebody who regularly hears about the Nama, Guna and Charitra of Lord Shri Krishna, all inauspiciousness is driven away from one's life. Would anyone like to give some evidence? How is it possible? The inauspiciousness or suffering can be eradicated if one regularly hears about Lord Shri Krishna. Yes, Madharati Manjri. Prove the point.
Prabhuji, it cleanses the heart. Gradually, all the anarthas are...
This is philosophical point. Give a practical thing. I agree, totally agree. You're quoting a verse. There's a verse that talks about it. You know, the purification of heart. How does it happen? Give some practical situation. In 10th canto, chapter number 1, verse number 14, Sutta Goswami says, One who hears Krishna Katha regularly, Krishna Katha is a remedy for all the sufferings of the mankind. So my question is, how is the remedy for the suffering of mankind? Mother Harini had written something on the chat. One by hearing one develops faith. Okay, Jai Prabhu, please go ahead.
Prabhuji, so if we hear regularly, then our mentality becomes attuned with the devotees. If we keep hearing qualities of great devotees, how they responded in certain situations, like how Bali Maharaj responded when Vamandev asked for that land, how he surrendered, etc. If we keep on hearing them, then our response our subtle responses to situation in our life become attuned to how they responded.
Correct. In our recent Bhagavad Life and Bhagavad Prakash discussion, this was our discussion when we were talking about the chapter 9 of first canto. How it is a remedy for all sufferings. When we hear regularly, then the role models from scriptures becomes our role model, to put it that way. And I was given an example, just like somebody comes and speaks unpleasantly to you. Is there anyone from here for Bhagavad Prakash or Bhagavad Life? Well, anyways, if you're there, doesn't matter. I'm still going to ask the same question here, which I did that time. The question is, imagine some devotee comes, I'm talking about devotee, some devotee comes and out of a sudden speaks some harshly or unpleasantly to you. And he's not your senior, let's say he's your peer, for example, or maybe he's a junior to you. So how many of you say you will get disturbed and you might want to respond to him in a certain way? How many of you agree? There will be immediately a response to it. Yeah, how dare you speak like this? What are you talking about it? Etc. etc. So I was making a point. Imagine somebody is regularly hearing scriptures and something like this happens.
You're on mute, Prabhu.
So now which great personality muted me now? I did not touch my laptop at all. And I have
I didn't do anything.
And I have been on mute for how long, by the way?
No, just 1 second back, Prabhuji. And I didn't mute you this time, for sure.
Otherwise, my response would have not been good this time, okay? If I was muted all this while. I would not have remembered any example from Bhagavatam. Okay. All right, what was I saying? What we're talking about, somebody speaking unpleasantly. We're talking about hearing, how actually hearing is a remedy. So I was making a point, somebody speaks unpleasantly to you, and imagine the story or the example of Yudhishthira Maharaj ringing into your head. Now Yudhishthira Maharaj was so much abused, insulted, his whole family was insulted by Duryodhana, yet not even once he had malice for Duryodhana. Yes? In fact, Yudhishthira Maharaj asked Arjuna and Bhima to go and rescue Arjuna from the Gandharvas. Many examples can be quoted like this. So point I'm trying to make it, Bhagavatam, the message of Bhagavatam, even for that reason Mahabharata, Ramayana, if we hear it from the right sources, changes our perception to life, strengthens us to give a response in a way which would not further aggravate our suffering situation. Imagine if you happen to respond by your default nature, which could be aggressively or could be harshly because somebody has spoken pleasantly. Are you not going to increase your suffering? Now, when we hear harsh words and when we speak harsh words, we continue to munch on for a long period of time. It doesn't go away. It's not that if I've taken a revenge, I forget that person. It doesn't happen like that. But in that situation, somebody takes a humble position. He says, okay, Prabhu, I'm sorry if something has disturbed you. I know you're pretty angry right now, so I accept what you're saying. Okay, I'll do the needful and we should catch up next time. Imagine if you leave it on this note and move forward. How many of you think you will continue on with your life? Will not get much disturbed. And of course, as a course of action, as a precaution, you go and talk to the authority, tell him he or she did like that. Case is over for you. And if you revolted back, how many of you agree for days together your chanting will be spoiled? You will be thinking, if today that person comes in front of me and if he does again, how I'm going to react now? And the story goes on. So that's how, just one practical example, one simple practical example, how regular hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam scriptures actually acts as a remedy for all suffering situations. With that, I will pause here. It's around close to 1:30. We'll take a 10 minutes break. 1:27 in my watch. We'll come back around 1:37, and we'll go to the next topic of the remaining topics. And my main focus today is on expecting the Lord's mercy, which means dealing with crisis, which is one of the principles. So we'll discuss that as that to be one of the last item, and then we'll have a group exercise on that. All right, so we break in now. Is 1:27 in my clock. We come back at 2:27. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So welcome back everyone after the short break. And we were discussing about hearing, on the subject matter of hearing, how hearing should be done. First of all, what is the importance of hearing, how hearing should be done. We also talked about the process of swadhyaya, and then there was a discussion on hearing about guna, nama, as roop or lila, like that. That was a discussion on it, and some other attributes of hearing. How does hearing purifies the heart? That was also a discussion. Then go with the slide deck. We'll go to the next topic, remembrance. So Srila Prabhupada writes, simply by remembering the Supreme Personality of God. I'm just reading from the book, okay? 3-4 lines down in the explanation. Simply by remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all living entities become eligible for all kinds of auspiciousness. Therefore, let me always remember the Lord, who is unborn and eternal. And then another quotation from Padma Purana. Let me offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, because someone remembers Him, either at the time of death or during his span of life, he becomes freed from all sinful reactions. Do you all remember at the time of initiation? At least I can't say that it happens for all the initiation, but at least the initiations that I have attended, before all the disciples have to recite this before offering oblations into the fire. Does anyone know what is that shloka where Guru asks everyone to repeat, if in case that happens in all the initiation ceremony? Om apavitro pavitro va sarvavashtham gatopi va yasmaret pundarikaksham sabhabhyantra suchihi. Now you remember, we all had this, right? And what it means, Yah pundarikaksham sabhabhyantra suchihi, sabhabhyantra suchihi. It does not matter you are pure or impure. Om apavitro pavitrova sarvavashtham gatopiva. But what matters, if someone remembers the Lord, that the remembrance of the Lord can make impure also pure and can drive away all the fear. It bestows fearlessness. So actually this is the mantra which all the Brahmanas recite actually, before taking bath. So what it is indicates, there is not the water that's going to purify me. In that context it is recited. It is a chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Why chanting of the holy names of the Lord? Because that is the easiest means to remember the Lord. You're getting the point? So when we go and take bath, we recite this mantra, Om apavitro pavitro va. So pure, impure doesn't matter. One who remembers the Lord is what becomes purified. So okay, I'm taking bath with water and all that, but what purifies me is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So just a point on that. So that's about remembrance. And then comes dhyanam, meditation. Let's talk about meditation. Meditation or dhyan is described as follows: Rupa dhyana, meditating on the form of the Lord, Gunadhyan, qualities, Krida, Leela, the pastimes of the Lord, and Sevadhyan. Sevadhyana, just like for example, all of you would have heard of this. Srila Prabhupada, that was I believe San Francisco, and Mother Malti had just come back with a small Jagannath deities, and then we just got recently Jagannath deities. And then when Prabhupada asked Shyam Sundar Prabhu to carve a bigger Jagannath deities, and then when bigger Jagannath deity was carved, one morning when Prabhupada went to the temple hall, a makeshift temple hall, Prabhupada was shocked. Oh no! Lord Jagannath deities have been stolen from the temple hall. The huge Jagannath deity was missing. Prabhupada was shocked. Prabhupada asked, called for the devotees. Hey, what happened? Jagannath deity is missing. Jagannath deity is missing. And then devotee said, Prabhupada, no, deity is not missing. Deity has gone for a stroll. Stroll means has gone for a morning walk. Prabhupada was doubly shocked. In India, deities get stolen. Here, deities go for a walk, huh? That's pretty nice. Prabhupada said, you don't do like this. And then Prabhupada said, call those devotees, bring the deities back. So when Shyam Sundar Prabhu and other devotees came back, they brought the deity back, and then Prabhupada was in his room, which was on the first floor, if I am correct. And when the devotees went there, and Prabhupada said, so, you like to take deities out for a walk? So the disciples said, yes, Prabhupada, we thought we like to go for a walk. So we thought Krishna would also like to go for a walk. So we took him for a walk. At that point in time, Prabhupada just peeked outside the window. And right on the street, a flatbed truck was passing by. Prabhupada looked at it and he said, oh, so it means it's an indication from Jagannath Ji. Now it has the time for us to celebrate Rath Yatra. And that's how that whole, the seed for Rath Yatra was sowed. So I'm speaking on the subject of Seva Dhyana. How Srila Prabhupada was always absorbed, how to facilitate, how to engage disciples. You remember we discovered Sadhana Bhakti, we were talking about it. In Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, one of the third definition which was given is the responsibility of a guru to engage his disciples in the service of the Lord. Always thinking about how to create more and more service opportunity. So we call as Seva Dhyana. So these are the 4 things that we're talking about. Where is my presentation? Rupa Dhyan, Guna Dhyan, Krida or Leela Dhyan, and Seva Dhyan. So let me see what we have in the slide. Okay, Rupa Dhyan. So here the reference is given in the second paragraph from Nasimha Puran, which says, as the lotus feet is beyond experience of pain and pleasure, grossly miscreant can be delivered from sinful life. In other words, it is said in Nasimha Puran, meditation focusing on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord can transcend one from all material anxieties, like that has been mentioned. Then about Guna Dhyan on the qualities of the Lord, there is a reference from Vishnu Puran, where it is said, I'm reading from books, please. I just do have a slide on screen for all of you, but I'm reading from the book. Persons who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness and who remember the transcendental qualities of the Lord become free from all reactions to sinful activities. And after being so cleansed, they become fit to enter in the kingdom of God. One very beautiful verse comes in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Maitreya Muni is, while remembering, Vidura asked question 3rd canto to Maitreya Muni, and Maitreya Muni goes trance when the question was asked about Lord Shri Krishna. And while beginning to talk about Lord Shri Krishna, if you look at those verses, one of the verses about Guna Dhyan, where he particularly meditates on the magnanimity and the compassionate nature of the Lord. Does anyone remember? Even if not the verse, what is Maitreya referring to? What that particular incident Maitreya Muni is meditating on, which actually establishes the most magnanimous nature of the Lord? Okay, Sudhir Prabhu, even if you don't know, if I ask you which particular incident from Krishna Leela, which Acharyas have glorified as the most magnanimous or compassionate nature of the Lord. Sudhir Prabhu, go ahead.
the Lord, where complete universe is devastated and Krishna, as a small just-born baby, will be keeping his feet on the moat and...
No, not the Markandeya Rishi pastime. Talking about the compassionate, magnanimous nature.
Oh, okay. Sorry, then I made sure.
No worries. No answer is wrong in that sense. Jai Prabhu. Yes, aho bakiyam sanakalakutam. Here Maitreya Muni spoke about our Putana. And he said, see, Putana, she had come with a planned way to kill Lord Shri Krishna, baby Krishna. And Lord Shri Krishna, she wanted to feed Krishna the poison. So Krishna did not only took poison, he took her life here also. And what did Krishna do with his killer? Krishna awarded her the role of a mother, the assistant of mother, like that, in the spiritual world. And Maitreya saying, oh my goodness, aho bakiyam, stanakalakutam, unbelievable, my dear Lord, unbelievable. I mean, he's staying with her, unbelievable. And who on this earth would not like to take shelter of such a magnanimous person? So this is called as guna dhyana, like that. One example. Then next is about kriya dhyanam. Kriya dhyanam example is given from Padma Purana, the quotation in the next paragraph. A person who is always engaged in meditation on the sweet pastimes and wonderful activities of the Lord surely becomes freed from all material contamination. So, what is one particular pastime which has been so much glorified? I mean, of course, you can quote many, but we talk about Leela Dhyanam. One particular pastime of Lord Shri Krishna which has been very particularly glorified. Everyone can give some answer for it. There are so many pastimes. So think which could be that pastime.
Damodar.
Yeah, you got it right on the first attempt. Correct. You have a whole Damodar month for it. Kartik Maas every year, isn't it? Every month we sing Damodar Ashtakam. That particular pastime, and the whole beautiful Damodar Ashtakam is meditating on that beautiful pastime. So that's about Kriya Dhyanam, meditating on the beautiful pastime like that. And then comes Seva Dhyanam. And in Seva Dhyanam, here a story is given from Padma Puran. I'll give you the gist of a story. What is the story here? You can read in detail by yourself later on, which is mentioned here almost for 1 or 2 pages. Prabhupada describes this. It's a story of a Brahman who has a sincere desire to serve Lord, but he does not have the means. And it is mentioned that he was a very open-hearted and broad-minded Brahmana who once happened to hear a lecture about from a great realized personality about the glories of the Lord. And there in that lecture he heard that Lord is so kind and magnanimous, even if somebody does not have any means to serve the Lord, but he offers service to the Lord within his mind, which is called as Manasik Puja. The Lord would accept the Manasik Puja also. Those who are Brahmanas would know that we do Manasik Puja when we go on the altar. When we're putting deities to rest, we do a Manasik Puja. Manasik Puja is is kind of an acceptable practice. And for that, good thing is to do Manasik Puja, you don't have to be initiated also. Forget about Brahman initiation, you don't have to be initiated, you can still do Manasik Puja. So, this Brahmana, when he heard this, he was very excited. He had no means to serve the Lord. So, great, I can do Manasik Puja and Lord accept my service. So, every day he will go and sit at the bank of the river, and there he will perform hours and hours of Manasik Puja, where he'll sit, meditate. Before that he will do pranayam, other things, just to create an environment within himself to be able to meditate on the Lord. And then he would meditate, and he will think, he will visualize that he is making the most opulent, elaborate offering to the Lord. And then he's fanning the Lord, then he's dressing the Lord, everything that he could imagine. And the beauty of imagination is it's tax-free and there's no limit to it, isn't it? You can do whatever you want in your imagination, isn't it? Nobody's going to put a tab to it. You can't go beyond this and that. So like that, he was serving for a good amount of time. And one day, he was meditating in his mind that wherein he has prepared a special sweet rice for the Lord, and which he was stirring himself for a long amount of time. Gradually when you make any milk sweet, if you do it on a low flame, it becomes more and more delicious because the milk becomes thick. So like that, with his hours of preparation within his mind, he has prepared a nice sweet rice, and now he poured it into the bowl and he wanted to offer to the Lord. So all of you would be aware, generally the culture is we don't offer extremely hot things to the Lord. We make it which is eatable, which means it should be normal, just like how we would like to accept. So this Brahman thought, oh, I'm going to offer this to the Lord, but I should first see how hot it is. It should not be too hot. My Krishna, his lips, his tongue will get burnt. So in that meditation, he's thinking like that. And then how do I test it? How do I check it out if it is too hot or not? Then he thought of nothing, but he decided to put his finger. He put his finger and he screamed, "Ah! It was too hot." And in his imagination, in his meditation, his finger has got burnt. And interestingly, his meditation broke. And when his meditation broke, and we looked at his finger was really burnt. There was no fire around that he accidentally put his finger in the fire and got burnt and he came out of his imagination. He was so much deeply absorbed into the meditation, actually he was serving the Lord. So this is what Prabhupada mentions here in the story about it. It was at the bank of like this. He would bring water from all the rivers, etc., like that. And there is another version of this story which goes on that how Lord wanted to personally come and meet this Brahmana. I don't think so Prabhupada mentioned the rest of the story here in that regard. It's mentioned in the last paragraph. I'll read out the last paragraph. Well, somebody else would like to read the last paragraph? Prabhupada do mention something here. Somebody can read the last paragraph. Please raise your hand. And Madam Manju, go ahead, please. Read the last paragraph.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranam. While he was thinking like this, in Vaikuntha, Lord Narayana, seated with the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, began to smile humorously. On seeing the smiling of the Lord, all the goddesses of fortune attending the Lord became very curious and asked Lord Narayana why he was smiling. The Lord, however, did not reply to their inquisitiveness, but instead immediately sent for the Brahmana. An airplane sent from Vaikuntha immediately brought the Brahmana into Lord Narayana's presence. When the Brahmana was thus present before the Lord and the goddesses of fortune, the Lord explained the whole story. The Brahmana was then fortunate enough to get an eternal place in Vaikuntha in the association of Lord and his Lakshmis. This shows how the Lord is all pervading in spite of his being locally situated in his abode. Although the Lord was present in Vaikuntha, he was present also in the heart of the Brahmana when he was meditating on the worshipping process. Thus, we can understand that things offered by the devotees, even in meditation, are accepted by the Lord, and they help one achieve the desired result.
Hare Krishna. Similarly, there is another story comes about, I believe, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. A poor fellow would drink 1 ounce of buttermilk every 2 days. And one day he got indigestion. Everyone in Vrindavan was confused. Our Raghunath Bhatta Goswami getting indigestion never goes for any Brahman bhojan. Never sits outside any temple for any langar or anything. And such a personality who hardly eats, having indigestion, this is biologically impossible. So, this was not the version of the devotees. They called for doctors. What happened? Why Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's health is bad? And the doctor said, the Ayurvedic doctor said, checking the nadi, oh, he has got indigestion. Previous day he ate a whole bucket full of kheer and nobody could believe him. Arey, how Raghunath Bhatt will eat kheer when this devotee is such a renounced person? He drinks just an ounce of buttermilk, that too leaving a day. How can he? Then finally devotees are confused. It's not possible. This our looks like our Ayurvedic doctor, his nadi have got disturbed. He's making wrong readings about other patients. So finally, when Raghunath Bhatt was came back into consciousness, at that point of time, devotees asked him, what happened? Why your health is so bad? They said, yesterday, what do? I was in a Leela Smaran, and there Srimati Radharani personally cooked this sweet rice, and I was assisting Srimati Radharani, and she insisted, and other gopis also insisted that I should eat some sweet rice. I took a bowl, but then gave me another bowl, then gave me another bowl, and they overfed me. And because of that, I got indigestion. This is all happening in meditation. This is all happening in meditation, and actual effect is happening on the body. So this is the subject matter of Smaran, meditation, which we were discussing like this up to now. And then this is a story as I already spoke about. So some of the lessons is Krishna accepts our service, doesn't matter gross or the subtle. Krishna looks at the attitude. He's bhavagrahi. Krishna doesn't see what you give. Krishna see what you keep back. It's not what you have given, but how much you have left in your wallet is what Krishna sees. Smart boy, only gave me 5 rupees, kept 100 behind. That's what Krishna sees. That is bhavagrahi. Okay. And even the poorest man can serve, etc., etc. Now let's come to the last subject matter for today, that is called as expecting the Lord's mercy. And only for this topic I had reversed the chapter. So this particular topic is based on this particular verse. All of you please repeat. Tatte anukampam susamekshamano bhunjana evatmakritam vipakam Hedavagvapubhvidadan namaste Jivetayo muktipade sadaya bhak Tatte anukampam Tesham anukampartham. Lord Shri Krishna Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter verse number 11. Krishna says anukampam, which means my causeless mercy, my compassion. Tatte, therefore, anukampam susamikshamano, waiting for my compassion, waiting for my causeless mercy. Bhunjana evatmakritam vipakam, while undergoing or while tolerating the reactions of their past sinful activities and waiting for my mercy to descend to them. So while going through the suffering and waiting for the mercy to descend, namaste, while doing that, while enduring it, and susamikshimano, and eagerly waiting for my mercy to descend, while doing that, if hid means heart, vak means vani, vapu means body, hidvak vapubhir vidadhan namaste, while doing that, they continue to practice devotional service in a practical language. Here it is mentioned, they offer their heart, their words, their mind, or their body in the service of the Lord. Namaste means offer obeisances. Then what happens? Jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhag. Such a person who is living with this attitude and this understanding that whatever is happening is because of my past reactions, or because of my past activities, and what I'm getting is a reaction of my own actions, and simultaneously waiting for Krishna's grace and Krishna's mercy, not becoming doubtful about Krishna's existence, about Krishna's mercy, and continuing to perform devotional service. Such a person, Jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhag. Such a person is certainly rightful heir to liberation, which in other words, this is spoken by Brahma, which means pure devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So let's take a quick thoughts onto this particular thing, and we'll take a look what is being described in the paragraph here. Ramayana, I'll quote one example of Ramayana. Ram Navami is just across another week from now. A beautiful example of Shabri comes, very, very profound example of Shabri. When her spiritual master, who was the only shelter, because Shabri belonged to an outcast, and when Shabri, on the day of her marriage, I don't know how much you know about Shabri's life, she belonged to a family of hunters who would kill animals. So they were an outcast family. And Shabri from her childhood was a devotee of the Lord. And then when her marriage was due on that particular evening, she saw so many innocent animals are being slaughtered for preparing a feast on the occasion of the marriage, and she could not tolerate that. and she decided to run away. And she ran away. And she ran away in search of God, in search of Lord Ram. She ran away and went to various rishis, munis, ashrams, begging for shelter. Nobody accepted her. Everyone called her an outcast. And finally she went and got a shelter, started serving her spiritual master, her guru. For her, there was nobody in this creation except for the spiritual master, who later on, because of old age, also passed away. While passing away, the spiritual master said, well, and when this personality, I'm missing the name right now, when this sadhu had accepted Shabri, as her shishya or disciple, then even the rishi and rishi's ashram was disowned. Matanga Rishi, yes, Matanga Rishi. Even they were disowned by rest of other sadhus. Where Shabri would go and take bath or would fetch water, nobody would come to that area. They thought it's all contaminated. Such was the situation. So for her, Matanga Rishi was all in all, and Matanga Rishi was passing away from this world. Shabri requested, pleaded, my dear Gurudev, I cannot live without you. There is nobody else to give me shelter. Allow me to come along with you to the next destination. And then Matanga Rishi said, no, you have to wait, because your worshipable Lord Ram is going to appear to you. And he passed away. Every morning Shabri will get up, would clean the whole ashram, would pluck berry and will bring, and will wait for the rest of the day. Maybe today is the day Lord Ram will come. So all of us have heard the story of when Lord Ram and Lakshman came and she fed berry. That she was doing for more than 70 years. How many years? For more than 70 years she was doing that. Every single day she would repeat the action, clean the whole ashram and pluck the berries and sit and wait. If today my Lord Ram has to come, I should be all ready. And she would wait like this day after day after day, and like that. And finally, at a fag end of her life, when Lord Ram came, she was pretty old by that time, and then Lord Ram appeared. So I'm talking about, I was just making this example of, waiting for the mercy of the Lord to descend, not losing faith. And whatever is going on in my life, understanding that is because of my past life that I've done. I cannot blame this to anyone and anything. Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada the boy, you know the story, first canto comes. There also same thing, Lord Shri Krishna gave him a small darshan, brief darshan, and then disappeared. And then the sound, it was an Akashvani which told the boy, now rest of your life you will not be able to see me, because you don't have that much credit. But I promise you, if you continue to practice, then after this life, I'll take you back home, back to Godhead. And 5-year-old boy, continue. Let's talk about Pandavas. When Pandavas went to meet Bhishma Pitamaha, Bhishma Pitamaha said, Aho kashtam, aho anyayam. I'm surprised. Yad yuyam dharma nandanaha jivitam narhat klishtam vipra dharma achyuta ashraya. He said, Aho kashtam, aho anyayam. I'm surprised. Aho, alas, how much suffering you all have to face. Aho kashtam, aho anyayam. The suffering, injustices. In fact, you were not supposed to be alive, yet you are alive. And who? Yudhishthira Maharaj, Dharmanandanaha, who is Dharma personified. Vipra Dharma Achyuta Ashraya, one who has always taken a shelter of a Brahmana, Dharma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet he got so much suffering in his life, is surprising, is amazing. And then Bhishma Pitamaha gives his version about it. Sarvam kalam kritam manne, bhavatam chayad apriyam, and thing goes on. So here in this particular topic of, forgot the main point. What is the title? Attitude. We're talking about attitude towards suffering, expecting the Lord's mercy. This is something which is a very, very important part of our, bhakti life. To give you an example, let's give some example from Srila Prabhupada's life. Srila Prabhupada, later on, in the last 6 months of his presence in this world, Prabhupada Prabhupada had a very bad health. You might have heard how Prabhupada got recovered and he wanted to go to London and then suddenly had to come back, and that was the last visit Prabhupada ever went out of India. So His Grace Amrish Prabhu was Prabhupada's personal servant for a good amount of time, but he did not come back with Prabhupada from London. And then later on some other devotee took the service in the final stages. So Amrish Prabhu explains that how Prabhupada was so weak, so frail in his final moments, and one day one letter came from Siddha Sarupa Prabhu, Prabhupada's disciple, who was kind of an iconoclast, who has his own way of presenting Krishna consciousness, who already had a great following in Hawaii. And he wrote a letter, "My dear Gurudev, I am so and so, I hope you remember, I hope you're keeping good health and Krishna will empower you, etc., etc." And he said, whenever you get to remember Hawaii, I hope you'll remember your fallen servant, Siddha Sarup. Like that, he had written a letter. And Amrish Prabhu was reading to Prabhupada, and immediately when he read the line, "Whenever you remember Hawaii, I hope, Srila Prabhupada, you'll also remember your servant, Siddha Sarup," like that. And Amrish Prabhu said, Prabhupada had tears in his eyes, and he said, "Oh, how can I ever forget you? I cannot forget any one of you. I always remember all my disciples." Prabhupada was in a very, very crisis situation. Back in Vrindavan, before going to London, when Amrish Prabhu was taking care of Prabhupada, it was very, very hectic to take care of Prabhupada in those situations. So Amrish Prabhu had a long day, and he thought, let me go and take rest for some time, because Prabhupada would call for servant anytime, because Prabhupada's health was such. So Prabhupada was, in Vrindavan temple, Prabhupada room is there. Prabhupada room was there, and outside the courtyard. So there Amrish Prabhu went, he switched on the fan, and he lied down there. And after some time, Prabhupada called for Amrish Prabhu. One devotee came and woke up Amrish Prabhu, who had just rested for an hour or so. And then Amrish Prabhu went running to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, "Amrish, my head is aching because I can hear the sound, whoosh, 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 whoosh." Amrish Prabhu said, What is that sound?" "No, pay attention. There is some sound coming which is disturbing my sleep." And then Amrish Prabhu focused, and he heard, and then he realized the sound is the sound of the fan which he had switched on in the courtyard. And then he said to Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, I have understood where the sound is coming from. The sound is coming from the fan outside. I'll quickly go and switch it off." And Prabhupada got hold of Amrish Prabhu's hand. "I heard you were sleeping there." Amrish Prabhu said, "Yes, Prabhupada." "Oh, so you switched on that fan?" Amrish said, "Yes, Prabhupada." And then Prabhupada said, "Oh, do not switch it off. If that fan is meant for your comfort, you should not switch it off." And Amrish Prabhu said, No, Prabhupada, that doesn't matter, I'll switch it off." And this is the peak summer of India, how hot it is. And Prabhupada is holding the hand, he said, "No, if it is meant for your satisfaction and comfort, you should not compromise for me." So Amrish Prabhu said, even Prabhupada in such a state, in such a dilapidated physical situation, Prabhupada was still, his heart was full of love and gratitude. He was always thinking about his disciples' welfare. And what to speak about is clarity of consciousness and memory. When you become old, when you're so sickly, we happen to lose train of thoughts. So Prabhupada at times when Amrish Prabhu would read letter, Prabhupada would not speak, but Prabhupada, whatever has to speak, will speak for a particular situation. And Amrish Prabhu will think Prabhupada have forgotten. And after a few days, Prabhupada would say, "Okay, Amrish, that particular incident happened," which Amrish Prabhu would have forgotten. And he thought, Prabhupada is speaking gibberish. And then Amrish Prabhu said, "Then I realized Prabhupada is not speaking gibberish. Prabhupada remembers every single thing about every single letter that I read." And Prabhupada, after a few days, would say, "Okay, that particular letter had come, I had not responded. This is the response which I would not remember." So Prabhupada was in a clear consciousness, and up to the last stage, he was translating Srimad Bhagavatam. And whenever anyone went to Prabhupada, for example, Brahmanand Prabhu, he said, "Prabhupada, you are a pure devotee of the Lord, and for the pure devotee of the Lord, all the mystic powers wait to follow his order. So my dear Prabhupada, you just need to, you need to just snap your finger. All this disease will go away." Now sounds interesting, isn't it? You're a pure devotee of the Lord, you're a spiritual master, you're an incredible personality, and you just snap your finger, all your diseases will go away. And Prabhupada had a quizzical look, and he looked at Amrish Prabhu. What is he talking about? He's becoming sentimental. And Prabhupada said, "Don't be sentimental." And then Amrish Prabhu said, I understood Prabhupada was making a point. I am not Vishnu Tattva. I am a devotee. And I have done some service. Doesn't mean that now the situation that I'm put into it, that's the will of the Lord. And my duty is to follow through the will of the Lord. If the will of the Lord for me to become cured, I'll become cured. If the will of the Lord that I go through the situation, I go through the situation. I'm not going to snap my finger or ask Krishna to come and save me from the situation. So like that we see in the life of Srila Prabhupada also, in the subject matter of how when suffering comes, what should be our attitude. So I'll make some few concluding points and then take some inputs from all of you. So what should be our attitude? First attitude, to understand what is the purpose of this creation. The creation is meant to rectify our tendency to enjoy independent of Krishna. So punishment is inevitable. Somebody can read these points, what I'm going to show on the slide deck. Anyone here? Please start reading.
Attitude towards suffering. Attitudes towards suffering. The punishments for a sinful activity is designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. From Bhagavad Gita 18.66, we understand that a devotee no longer suffers the reaction of karma. Since a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may resemble sinful reactions. This suffering is not technically a karmic reaction. It's the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to let go of the material world and return to Godhead.
It's like mother slapping a
Since
child. Mother slapping a child is not out of envy, but just to rectify the child of his or her mischievous habit. That's what the point. Go ahead.
Since a sincere devotee wants to go back to Godhead, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words and body. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the supreme pure Lord Krishna without undergoing a rigid purificatory process. Just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead and be promoted to the kingdom of Godhead.
We just have to remain alive. We just have to continue. An example is of how a son of a rich man, if he remains alive, he gets to inherit all the wealth of his rich father. An example of a quotation about Gajendra. Please read out.
The king of the elephants was so very eager to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead that when he saw the Lord coming in the sky, with great pain and in a feeble voice, he offered respect to the Lord. A devotee does not consider a dangerous position to be dangerous, for in such a dangerous position, he can fervently pray to the Lord in great ecstasy. Thus, a devotee regards danger as a good opportunity. Tatte anukampam
Susamishamana.
Samana. When a devotee is in great danger, he sees that danger to be the great mercy of the Lord, because it is an opportunity to think of the Lord very sincerely and with undiverted attention. He does not accuse the Supreme Personality of Godhead for having let his devotee fall into such a dangerous condition. Rather, he considers that dangerous condition to be due to his past misdeeds and takes it as an opportunity to pray to the Lord and offer thanks for having given such an opportunity. When a devotee lives in this way, his salvation, his going back to home, back to Godhead is guaranteed. We can see this to be true from the example of Gajendra, who anxiously prayed to the Lord and thus received an immediate chance to return home, back to Godhead.
Hare Krishna. So here we pause, and I do have a short exercise if you all want, for which we had taken this Zoom account. So I'll just show you the question that I have for all of you, and the question is this. Share with your partner the circumstances of a period in which you suffered greatly as a devotee. As a devotee, you had faced a challenge. Reflect on how you would have dealt with this crisis in a more Krishna conscious manner based on the philosophy presented, and which means what we just discussed. And a quick way, because you can just make down a few points of what was the situation. We're not gonna need to know the details of your situation, but you can just make note of point for yourself. Now I know, I have an understanding, I have a clear understanding of how to deal with this, how to see a suffering in a right perspective. So how my response would be today if such a situation has to happen? Would I see it as a mercy or would I see it as a complaint? Like that. That's the question here. Is the question clear to all of you? How would your response to a crisis change today based on what we have discussed right now? Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, can we also narrate something where we have felt the mercy of the Lord, Prabhu?
No, that's not the point here, which is a good point. But today, we can do that next time. Today, we are asking very specifically where you had faced a crisis as a practicing devotee. And we are talking about how your response would change today based on what we just discussed about the principles while dealing with crisis. That's the question here, okay? Nitai Plant will go into however you have to break out.
So Prabhu, I'm going to create 8 rooms. So each room will have 5 participants and the assignment will be automatic. So I'm not going to do the manual, and it's Zoom which is going to assign the devotees to the group.
Great.
So should I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead.
So Prabhu, you will also move to one of the group as well.
Oh, Hare Krishna, I fully acknowledge our time is up. We are right on 2:30 here. Would anyone, in case if they had a healthy discussion in the group, would like to throw some light? If our devotees are still there. So, Hare Krishna. Nitai Prabhu, you want to repeat what I just said, for everyone?
Yeah, so Prabhu has requested that since you have already gone through the discussion within your group, so if anyone wants to share their discussion or realization, then please go ahead and discuss and share the same.
We'll just take maybe one input at this point of time because the time has run out. That's the reason. Anyone wants to share something? So we do have a hand of Sandeep Prabhu up. Sandeep Prabhu, let's hear your side of story.
So we had a discussion among us, and I think the common theme which I saw is that everyone faced kind of problem in when they're beginning their devotional life. They came to the devotional life and they faced some problem in their personal life, and at that point of time that put them in some dilemma that how to react to that situation. Maybe even impacting their sadhana also at that point of time somehow they can, but due to I think they continue their sadhana and all, and now when after this class, when they reflect upon that, they think that if they continue to do their sadhana and remain in the association of devotees, and they also understood that it is because of whatever past karma they have, they are suffering, but Krishna is there to take care of them, and now they can happily say that ठीक है ये situation आया, but I can leave it on Krishna and continue my sadhana and he will take care. That is something which most of the people who have shared in the group have shared this common thing. So
thank you, wonderful. I'll conclude with this last point. Whichever situation we are, we should have faith. Krishna knows this is best for us, for our progress in Krishna consciousness. And if it is the best situation, then we should make the best advantage by attentively chanting the holy names of the Lord and remembering the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So anything and anything which happens in our life is to help us come closer to Krishna. And the crises are the best means to bring us closer to Krishna, because that's the time we can really take shelter of the Lord. So therefore it is said it is a mercy, not other way around. I do understand somebody is going through a crisis, would be very difficult for them to deal with it right now. Therefore it is said when the weather is good, rejoice it. Be happy about it. So that when weather is bad, you're able to live on the memories of your good times in the good weather. In other words, you're able to deal with the tough times. That's the message of Bhagavad Gita. That's a part of this discussion, and it really, really strengthens our faith in Lord Shri Krishna. Otherwise, we can begin to think why Krishna is letting this happen, etc., etc. And then our doubts can seep in. So with that, we'll pause here for today.